As I had stated earlier, this is an emergency meeting, and the purpose of this particular meeting is to deal with an email that was sent out by the chairman of the Board of Education here in Norwalk. I think his name is Mike Barbas, am I right? Yes. Am I saying that right? Yes. Okay, Mike Barbas, who is the chairman, who was using racial slurs, and I guess he had communicated with the mayor and several other people. We're going to go into more detail, but I'm just generalizing things now. Well, I think the first what we should do is read this email for the record, so everyone is on the same page. And I will read for those who do not know, and then just for the record. It says, from Mike Barbas, date June 5th, 2019, and it says, I will forward. I think Kimmel is reconsidering this morning, but the board is going to change our plan. Screw building schools in South Norwalk, and that's predominantly a black community, am I right? Yeah. If those a-holes don't want them, let's build them where they do. We spent over 3 years, and we have just been effed at every turn. Morris, Sims, Young, Dumas, Mushak, am I saying it right? Yeah. Westmoreland, and now Livingston. These are the people that gave us Mosby, Rivas, Murray, who did nothing for 20 years. I'm sick of this. I lost another friend in his 50s yesterday. Life is too short. Please stand by for a revised plan. The board is disgusted with these a-holes, Democrats from South Norwalk. They don't even represent their residents. Don't forget, 15% of our students are black. 50% are Latino. Where's the Latino voice? Excuse me. Who is fighting for those children? Who is fighting for those children? Not one representative from South Norwalk, not one. They are all scum, and I am going to tell the press. Nancy won't care, but the hour just might. Blacks, F Latinos. That's the headline. And that is the email that we're here to discuss. I will now hear from a statement from the Norwalk branch president, Sister Brenda Penn-Williams, who has done a magnificent job in communicating this throughout the community. Let's give her a round of applause. And who has also notified the state branches throughout the state of Connecticut, all of the units, the youth councils, and the college chapters, who are waiting to hear the Norwalk's charge and what you all want to do in reference to mobilizing and galvanizing in this particular area and pertaining to dealing with this particular situation. Also, the national office has been notified about what's going on in here in Norwalk pertaining to this particular email. You know that education is a priority for the NAACP. It was the NAACP that fought for the Brown versus Board of Education. This has been a priority for many, many years with this particular association. We're very serious about education, and for a chairman of a Board of Education to have communications like this with the mayor is alarming, not only here, but alarming all across this nation. So it's very important that we take this very serious and deal with this swiftly and decisively. So I will listen to the statement from the president for the record, and then we will move on to discussion.
I have no statement, but the first vice read the statement. Okay, sorry about that.
Because of your laryngitis, for the record.
Good evening. I'm the first vice President Shirley Mosby, and I'm reading this on behalf of our President, Brenda Penn-Williams. Good evening, and thanks for coming to this meeting on such short notice. A special thanks to Scott X. Esdale, our state NAACP president, for attending tonight. Thank you. 11 years ago this week, the United States of America elected Barack H. Obama as president. He was the first man of color to serve in that noble office. On the election of President Obama, many people felt that this nation was headed towards a time of post-racial concerns. Unfortunately, the hope for a post-racial society has not come to pass. The country continues to battle racism, segregation, and discrimination, and other isms in many forms. A change has got to come. The late Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois, a founder of the NAACP in 1917, wrote The Souls of Black Folks. And that epic work, Dr. Du Bois opined that the problem of the 20th century was one of race. Unfortunately, that problem noted by Dr. Du Bois continues as an issue in the 21st century. In June 2019, Mike Barbers, chairman of the Norwalk Board of Education, wrote a vile and mean-spirited email regarding the roles of blacks and Latinos in the Norwalk School District. According to Mr. Barbers, the email recipients, including Mayor Harry Rilling and Attorney Edward Camacho, who is the Norwalk Democratic Town Committee chairperson. To my knowledge, Mayor Rilling or Chairperson Camacho did not say anything about the email or did anything to the chairman of the Norwalk Board of Education in connection with the disparaging email that he wrote and sent. It is difficult for me as a professional educator and community leader to stand idly and allow this kind of action to take place in 2019. Mike Barbers, who wrote the despicable email as chairman of the Norwalk Board of Education, should apologize to every Norwalk resident. More importantly, Mr. Barbers should resign effective immediately from the Norwalk Board of Education. The sentiments voiced by Mr. Barbers and deadpanned by the mayor and Mr. Camacho have no place in Norwalk or anywhere. The email of Mr. Barbers sounds similar to what Donald Trump had to say about the late Honorable United States Representative Elijah Cummings. You may recall that Mr. Trump made some dark and terrible statements about Representative Cummings and Baltimore City. Mr. Barber's emails were similar in terms of the message. It is not acceptable. You heard the email as it was written. No fake news, just facts. This is not fiction. It is important that Mr. Barbers to own up to his racist tirade and spare Norwalk by resigning from the Norwalk Board of Education. If there is not a resignation, then the NAACP with its friends and supporters will pursue all available means to remove or censor Mr. Barbers. Thanks for coming tonight. Your continued presence, support, and voice will make a difference in the battle for justice, inclusion, and diversity. Please attend the next Norwalk NAACP meeting on Tuesday, December 3rd at 7:00 p.m. Calvary Baptist Church, 21 Concord Street, Norwalk, Connecticut. Speaking on behalf of for Brenda Penn-Williams, President.
Excellent words from the President, and we thank you for those words. And we'll put those in the record. I also see here that there were some recent racial slurs at BMHS. What is the acronym BMHS?
Brian McMahon High School.
Okay. Well, somebody, do you have someone that's going to speak to that?
Sure.
Yes. I believe there was an article recently put in the Norwalk Hour on 11th, and the article is in regards.
What is the date on that?
This article is October 30th, 2019. And I'm going to read you the article so you can get familiar with it. Okay. Like other nearby districts in recent weeks, the city public schools is investigating alleged incidents of anti-Semitism and racism in a high school classroom. In a letter to parents on Tuesday, Brian McMahon principal Scott Hurwitz described recent incident, including a drawn swastika found on a chair and rearranging of computer keys to spell a racial slur that occurred in the same computer lab. Two recent incidents both troubling and disappointing, has caused us to look a little more closely at our climate and prompted us to take steps to make our community even stronger, Hurwitz wrote. School administrators have begun an investigation, and Hurwitz said Norwalk police were contacted. We hope that we can identify the student who is responsible so that we can help him or her to understand the hurt caused to individual and the damage done to our community, Hurwitz said. The district also contacted the Anti-Defamation League, which offer education and program. Defamation League, who offer education and program to fight anti-Semitism and hate, about information that could be presented to students. We spoke with them and discussed the best way to communicate with the community an incident like this, said Andy Freeland, Assistant Director of ADL Connecticut. We talked about ADL resources and lesson plans on topics like this. We discussed different strategies and possibility moving forward. Since the beginning of the school year, similar incidents have been reported in Darien, Hamden, and Westport. The main officials said they're working to address the issue. The teachers in the classroom where the incident occurred led conversation to discuss and address student concerns. The school will also host sessions on the power that words and symbols have to wound an individual in the community, Hurwitz said. On November 20th, school-wide meeting will convene to celebrate students who show exemplary character, work ethic, and academics, a part of which will address the importance of community and how students speak to each other. And the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, McMahon will host his annual Climate Day. The purpose of Climate Day is to foster positive relationships and to create an environment in which students feel they are supported and able to succeed, Hurwitz said. Hurwitz's letter came the same day McMahon freshman Samantha Prebisky spoke about her own experience with anti-Semitism at a forum for mayor and board of education candidates hosted by congregations organized for a new Connecticut. Prebisky said despite anti-bias training that staff undergoes yearly, one teacher failed to provide her ample time off from lessons and assignment during Jewish high holidays. She also said in addition to the swastika and the racial slur found in the computer room, she heard one student call another a Jew, and what she perceived was a derogatory manner, and a separate incident in which one student called another a yarmulke and told yarmulke, yes, I'm not comfortable with these, but yeah, yarmulke, and told him to kill himself. I was excited by the anti-bias teacher training. I participated in last year's, said Probisky, who was involved in the program as a student. It was a good start, but these incidents in recent weeks are upsetting. The term Jew is not an insult, but it's dangerous for our community to not take action to address these incidents. It's an easy and scary feeling of learning environment where children are supposed to feel safe. A spokeswoman for Norwalk Public Schools did not respond Wednesday when asked about the incident described. And the words on the computer thing was the N-word that was spelled out on the computer. So just to give some background to that.
So pretty much what we're striving to make the community aware that we have a serious racial problem here in Norwalk. And I guess it's running rampant within the Board of Education from the top to the bottom. So far, what we've seen. So there's supposed to be also some information for a pre-election day article regarding candidate background checks. Now, does this have to do with the Board of Ed?
Not really, no.
So I want to stay focused because we're dealing with Board of Ed, right? How does this?
It all ties together.
Okay, so let me listen to it.
It all ties together. These are three African-American men that was in the middle of their campaign. They had an article that was put out there. And
Campaign for what?
For office, for common council.
Okay, for city council?
City council.
So they call it common council here?
Yes, for common council.
And how does the election go? Is it at large or by district?
Both. This time it was both. There was some at large and there was some at districts.
Okay, and these candidates were going at large or by district?
Both. At
Okay.
large.
I got it.
One large, two district.
Okay,
Yes.
gotcha. You said one was at large?
One large, two district.
One was Darnell,
Darnell
One
Crossing.
and James, he left.
Page.
Page.
And Ernie Dumas.
Got it. Go ahead. I'm listening.
Yes. Okay, days prior to the election, this derogatory story was put into paper, discussing about their things in the past, that they were trying to paint these guys, in a light that wasn't favorable. And this right here, is this on here? Hi, Brenda. Aaron relayed your concerns to me. This is from Mike Pignatara from the Stanford Advocate. This article.
Yeah.
Let me explain.
Okay. This one is this the article?
Well, let me explain.
This is
So I hope you can hear me. So I took offense to the 3 guys that were running for office. They had been arrested in the past. 30 years ago, they were expunged. 30 years ago, they put this in the paper. Mike Barbas recently had been arrested for domestic violence, I think it was. And he was driving without a license, unregistered car, okay? So, but they failed to put that in there about him. But they wrote about the black guys. I took offense to that. So I told Aaron, and Aaron told her producer, or her,
Editor.
oh, who did you tell, Aaron?
I told Mike Pignataro, my editor.
Oh, her
That's
editor.
one right.
So today, he sent me a response, because I did take offense. Why are you writing about 3 black men arrested? And here's Mike Barbas, who had been arrested, and you put nothing like that in the paper. So for me, that was racial. That's how I took it. I don't know how anyone else took it. So I spoke to Erin about it. She told her editor, and he sent me an email to that. Shirley, could you read it, please?
Yeah, I'm gonna read it. So this.
No, just read what he wrote.
Oh, okay. That's right. This is the article here. Okay. Okay. This Mike Pignataro. I guess he's the editor from the Stanford Advocate.
The Norwalk Hour.
Norwalk Hour. Okay,
Yeah.
good. I see, email address says Stanford Advocate. Okay, from the Norwalk Hour. Hi, Brenda. Aaron relayed your concerns to me about the article we published last week involving Darnell Crossland, James Page, and Ernie Dumas. While I certainly understand your concerns, race honestly never crossed my mind when publishing the article. The article was a culmination of a month-long project where we conducted extensive background checks on all candidates running the office. Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. What we found was Crossland has a pending criminal case, and Page and Dumas were convicted of crimes. Yes, there were other people we found who were arrested, but those charges were dismissed. I'm happy, well, I could at least mention it, but I'm happy to speak more about this if you like, and the rationale behind doing the investigation in the first place. But I just wanted to give you some background behind the article. Call me anytime on my cell. Thank you.
All right, any other information that anyone wants to add pertaining to, we're here for Mike Barbas, all right? So I understand that there was a conviction for him, right? Or he was arrested for something.
Yes.
And that arrest would correlate to other individuals being arrested. And why didn't they share the information about all the candidates? But they chose to just put this information out about the black candidates. I'm very clear. Let's get back to Mr. Barbas, though.
Okay.
All right. So I've heard from the individuals up here. I'd like to hear from the community and your concerns pertaining to this email and Mr. Barbas' communication to the mayor. Because I do think that the mayor has some responsibility in this.
I agree.
And I also think that and I also think that the chair of the Democratic Party has some responsibility.
It's double.
Now, the state NAACP had a summit. Excuse me one second. I'm going to acknowledge you. NAACP State Conference had a summit, actually 2 summits this past year, called the 94% Summit. And it's based on the the African American community voting 94% to the Democratic Party. And this has been consistent since the late 70s. And based on that, to whom much is given, much is required. And due to the fact that we have a Democratic chair here receiving an email like this and not making the community aware that the chairman is involved in this type of racist activity is very disturbing. And that he held on to this email and did not make the members of the Democratic Party aware of this type of activity. So that's a huge concern. And that's a concern that I would like to talk to the state Democratic Party and the National Democratic Party about, because they shouldn't be letting individuals in leadership positions be involved or know about this type of information and not let a community that has given a lot of support to the Democratic Party consistently for many, many years. And they should not take that type of support for granted.
Well, Scott, we just had...
Hold tight 1 second. Hold tight 1 second. I want to make sure I keep my
Yeah,
point.
okay.
All right?
Okay.
So I think that it's imperative that we let Nancy Wyman know what's going on, and also it's imperative that that we have a sit down with her and make sure that you voice your concerns and the concerns of African Americans and Democrats from the city of Norwalk. Let them know that y'all concerned. So I want to hear the concerns of you all, and then I'm gonna listen to you because she had her hand up first.
That's
Okay.
Medallia.
Medallia, it's your turn. What's your last name?
Rebus. She's in the email.
Oh, you're in the email. You're famous. I even know how to spell your name.
Well, however you want to spell it. Well, I have 2 comments to make. Well,
Yes, ma'am.
hopefully this will help us, or help the community with this.
Now, are you elected official?
For 9.5 years, I was elected in 2006 and lost my seat. And
So when you say elected official, is that board or is
Board
that
of
city council?
Education.
Okay,
We're
Board of
the board
Education.
trio.
I got you.
This has been going on with Barbara way before when he first was elected, where I was a victim, Shirley was a victim, Rosemary was a victim, Sherelle was a victim at one point too, and there were emails going on as well, and also on a point of disabilities, which I had a public, at a public Board of Education meeting, which was, it was taped, but then for some reason it disappeared off of the tape, where I publicly confronted him because I had become disabled, where I had a vision impairment. And they weren't giving me information that I could read or not some kind of communication audio so I can understand what was going on. So I was being excluded from this. So I said that I told the Board of Education that they should accommodate me with my temporary disability until I was able to get well again in order so I can participate as an elected official. So I was told that I should remove myself from my seat if I'm not able to do the job, and they're not going to accommodate my disability. So I told them under the American Disability Act that they had no choice but to do so. And I was very concerned that if they cannot accommodate an elected official on this board, how are we servicing our children? So that's when the tape disappeared because it didn't play. I also wanted to say, I know, him being in the Democratic Party, I'm getting a little nervous, so forgive me.
Take your time, sir.
Because this is a very
Just take your
touchy
time.
subject for me.
Just take your time.
The Board of Education, apart from the fact that we elect them into office, they are also considered agents of the state according to general state statutes in Connecticut, which means that I don't know if one of the cities or one of the towns, there was something, I think it was Bridgeport, something happened with their Board of Education members, and the state came and removed the whole group, the whole Board of Education, regardless who voted for them in that city, because the Board of Education is supposed to respond, the city board, to the state Board of Education.
That's right.
Now, if this is made public to them, I cannot see how they cannot take action on this particular elected official who represents not only the city of Norwalk, which is a disgrace the way he is representing our children, and the way that he treats his fellow board members. And I was humiliated, and children were being disserviced, and no one listened. And I am happy, and I'm happy with God too that this came to light, because this has been going on for years, and no one has cared about this. It has been said publicly. It has been said publicly. I've been insulted publicly. Children with disabilities, not serviced. The State Board of Education, like I said, should be really involved in this, because the Board of Education answers to the state of Connecticut, which I want to repeat that. And even if we were to do our best, we would still have to run it through the State Board of Education.
They also have to answer to the federal government too.
Yes, so this whole thing, that's why there's an issue where the city can't really tell the Board of Education what to do because of that statute in the state of Connecticut that stops them. So we should look into further that, involve the state on this, the State Board of Education, have them come down and then or forward them the email, make a meeting over there in Hartford and tell them this is what we have as an elected official. Because it's not fake news, it's in its own writing. And if you dig up, and if you, I don't know, if you subpoena him, whatever, they have to pull all the emails that have been addressed, where you can see all of this racism, this bigoted thing, all of the stuff that has been communicated on the emails on the Board of Education, what makes it public property, because it's a public school board. And everyone in the community really should know exactly what's going on. There should be nothing hidden. I think it's time that the hiding stops. Everything has to come out in the light. And I don't think the Channel 12 News, Channel 7, Hartford, whoever it is, they should be present. I mean, because this is going further than that. And in hearing this email, I am sure and I'm hurt that someone would allow someone to speak so vulgarly.
Yeah.
And inappropriate, yeah. And a bully. He's a bully. He's a racist person, a bigot, and so many things. And I believe the NAACP should really do something about this. Do something about this so we can build up faith again into the community in the NAACP. So, that's it. And if I think of something, I'll say something, but I can't say anything.
You did a wonderful job. Yes, ma'am. Can you please stand and say your name?
I'm Diana Rivales. Many of you know me.
I don't know you, so you got
So yeah, I'm with Norwalk NAACP. I'm a parent. I'm with Cradle to Career. I'm with NAACP. I'm with several organizations within Norwalk.
Yes, ma'am.
But once again, like I always try to come as the parent, right? So the realities of this type of language in emails is really talking about what is said behind closed doors, right? So with that, and I always keep saying, like, the fish stinks from the head, right? To actually have a problem, like, for example, with Norwalk NAACP, the true reason Norwalk NAACP was even started was because of the situation happening with our young black boys and their being expelled, so on and so forth. That has kind of grown into something else, and we've talked about coming back, right? But to act like a board chair's mentality in an overall, to be able to speak in that manner, trickles down to how these kids are traumatized right within the school themselves. So one of the things that really annoy me is when they're talking about things like emotional well-beings, emotional well-beings, whatever, but our kids are traumatized right within our school systems, right? So now we have to look at this a little bit different, right? Our stock is our kids, right? Our stakeholders is our parents, right? So when do I get our investors to start listening to us a little bit differently? And one of our investors are racist and off-putting, even down to a soda can opening while you're speaking, is just so disrespectful. And the fact of the matter is, especially with a mayor that we've endorsed and put back or whatever, we need to come with an ask now, right? This needs to be a true ask.
Ask or a demand.
Or demand.
Thank
And
you.
a true why and a true demand. But really not to say our problem, but what we should really work towards is coming with a strong ask as a community, because we don't ask anything. We just vote and go away, right? And our votes, especially our votes, can fix something, break something, make the country. The fact that this is the head of our Board of Education means this is the head mentality of our future. And how many of them, even in trying to bring up a thing between Hispanic and Black, and who's getting this or that, whatever, that's conquering divide, that's divisive, that's racist, that's just below. I don't even know where his education level is, to be quite honest with you, the way he acts. And I'm not even trying to be funny with that. Just in the way he acts. And in the world that we're in, it's really because we're in a Trump world that's okay. It's not. As a parent, I just want to see what you breathe. What you breathe into my children is this. What you're breathing into my school system is this. Because your mentality is that, and what you're doing is what you think won't get out behind closed doors. That means there's conversations with the mayor. That means there's conversation with whoever, sheriffs, whoever, because you don't think someone's going to read it. So you're bold enough to do it in something that someone could read. That makes no sense to me. It's not like we have secret servers. That literally means I'm comfortable enough, because I've been here long enough, I'm comfortable enough to say this regardless. And you literally say it every time you open a can in someone's ear. I just want people to really understand the breath that we're saying is okay to our kids, especially ours, because they're getting traumatized in there, and they'll come to you and say, how do you socially take care of your kid? How are you doing right for your kid? But then tell your kid that they're not worth anything in a classroom. That doesn't make sense to me. I question that on them all the time. This is now from the head. If a chair on the Board of Education feels this way about our kids, how do our kids have a chance at all? At all. Even the fact that we're even talking about a school down here is part of the reasons why they don't have a chance.
That's right.
At all. You understand? So I'm not gonna keep it too long, because everybody gotta talk. I just wanna say, once again, to the soul of what we truly are, and to the soul of what we want our kids to be. If we think that's leadership for anything, then we're failing, period.
I have a question real quick. How is the chair chosen here? Is it voted on amongst the board?
I'm still
I
trying to
can-
how he was.
I can give you
By the city board member.
Just a real quick answer.
The problem is he's
Excuse me one second, I just need an answer to the question. I got you next, man.
The chair is chosen by the members on the board. Unless there's a deal in place, then the chair will get in there. And the 5 members, and that's what's been happening the last few years.
That's
The deal
exactly
in
what I was
place.
gonna say.
Hold tight, so the board has how many people on the board?
9 people on the board, you need 5 votes to get that seat.
And only board members could vote for the chair?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
This young lady here.
Your name,
everything she
ma'am?
said, like, oh, Marvin
And
Petrus.
please stand.
Okay, Marvin Petrus, born and raised in Norwalk, educated in Norwalk, and know Norwalk very well. This has been going on for years, for years. She said she said it excellent.
Yes.
You know what? Everything needs to be cleaned up in Norwalk. From the teachers, union,
Yes.
the teachers aren't educated to serve none of the children properly. From the special ed like this young lady had went in and what she saw, this has been going on from all the superintendents, going back as far as Sloan, going back as far as my years. I've looked back into the education when I was in high school, now elementary from Columbus Lincoln, there was always a problem. The NAACP was going after the men, the blacks and the Puerto Ricans, and that's how they phrased it back then. Now we have the Latinos, they're saying, and now they don't even want to talk about blacks. Because I went to the meeting last week at City Hall, and when the mayor said that we have to get out X amount of monies for the Latinos that are coming across the border, I have never in the years they've had to say anything about African American children. Never. Now, all these years I've been seeing all the black ministers, now I'm probably gonna get in trouble with this, but they have not stepped up. And I've been going out here for years, and never have they gone and asked for money. Now, Brenda, I have called several ministers and said, this young lady, they're going after her. And they ignored me. And this is what this has come to. Now, they had the nerve to stand up and still back him. Not back him, because 5 years ago, what he did to Paula Conti's place, and he went in there to those seniors and told them they'd be all right. No. Cedar Court seniors, they're not all right over there. So he's been lying.
Are you talking about the mayor?
The mayor.
The mayor.
Thank you.
He's been lying and lying and lying.
Still supporting. Still.
And even how Norwalk Council is being run.
I want to stay on Barbara's stuff.
So, everybody needs to be cleaned up. And that Board of Ed is not being run properly. From special ed, terrible. They throw a few of our black kids out of the system, and then they have nobody watching over them. You try and get help when the kids are out of the system, and in the private schools, and those private schools are not overlooking these black kids that are in the private schools. And their grades, they're down on the 3rd grade, and if they're in 8th grade, they're on 3rd grade level, and paying out $80,000. And I know that for a fact. So if you want to clean up, you got to clean up all the way.
Yeah.
You got it.
Ma'am, please stand your name.
Hi, my name is Sandra Sims. I'm Travis Sims' wife, and I just need to apologize. He's at a meeting right now. He's gonna try his hardest to get here. So I'm here representing him. I didn't hear everything that was said earlier, but I can tell you Travis has been the subject of a lot of this, what I call bullying. Mike Barbas actually sent Travis an email after this. First of all, the email that went out, this email was sent to these individuals back in June. And so it's just crazy that it is just surfacing right now. That's a political, 4 months. That email was written in June and it just surfaced right now. That is a political ploy. Right before our election, the email was released. And so, like everyone has said, and most people know, this has been going on. If you're in leadership, if you're doing anything that is not status quo, you will be targeted, especially African We're talking about Barbas and the Board of Ed, but I bet my life on it that there are several more emails, there are several more conversations that just haven't surfaced, but this is nothing. This is nothing at all.
Behind closed doors.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir.
How you doing, President? Like you said, we're here about the Barbas thing tonight, but what needs to be known.
What's your name, sir?
Andre Williams. I'm a member of the NAACP, Chair of Legal Redress.
Thank you.
What needs to be known about this whole Barbas thing This started years ago. There's a hit list of black people they want out. It started with Bruce Morris. Once they got rid of him, it snowballed. They got cocky with it. Dr. Moore. Another one. There's a hit list of black people they want out. Principals,
Yes.
common council members,
Yep.
Board of Ed members.
That's it.
This hit list, we saw it in the Orange Diamond. We had a meeting. We saw the list. Like I said, Bruce Morris,
Yep.
Dr. Moore, Dr. Allen,
Yep.
Shirley Mosby, Medea Rivas, Rosa Murray.
Yep.
There's a list of black people they want to be done with because they have a voice.
That's it.
When you're black, you have a voice, you become a target because you're a problem.
That's right.
And I was that same problem in the fire department. I had a voice, I would not take the nonsense, I spoke out, I became a target. So what needs to be known, that it goes back to Travis Sims, like I said, there's a hit list of people, African Americans, that they want to get rid of. And it started with Bruce Morris, and it's a snowball effect, and they're slowly picking them off. And that needs to be known.
Sir.
You took some of my comments already. But thank you, Mr. President, for coming down here to Norwalk.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. We really need help in the city.
Yes.
When you can have an elected member of a body of government who's the chair of that body that calls other elected leaders who are actually representing their constituency, and if they're all black, call them the scum, have such disregard, that's a real problem. And you've already heard it. This isn't new. Has been going on for quite a while. But I want to make a bigger connection because right now you started out saying about this one email, and people have already alluded to other emails, and there are many. There are news people that have sued the city of Norwalk, and there's all kind of emails out there that let you know the blatant disregard that certain board members have for people of color, and particularly leaders of color who stand up and voice an opinion different than theirs. The bigger connection to Mike Barbas in this situation, because the email that you're looking at has to do with the school facilities plan.
Yes.
The way we decided to build new schools in the city of Norwalk. This goes back to the Brown decision, when the city of Norwalk decided to desegregate our schools by having one-way busing. It has remained that way for the longest. Well, I forget the exact year, I think it was 2017 or 2016. Mr. Barbas was the chair of the school facilities plan. This is when they were going to decide where we're going to build new schools because we have over-enrollment. And one major piece that happened there was for at least a couple of months, meetings would happen, plan was rolled out, but it was done in isolation. Now, Mr. Barber says, who's speaking for the Spanish population? Well, guess what? There was no one black or Latino in any of those meetings. Decisions were being made in private. By the time many of us as leaders found out about it and said, listen, we started doing our own meetings in the community. That's when Mr. Barbas and company marginalized, muted, and disregarded and began to publicly disgrace and say things about black leaders. The record is there. I'm glad Nancy O'Neill, she's got a good comment. She's got a whole bunch of information and video record. Travis Sims, a bunch of Darlene. You see Darlene, she was named. Well, Darlene's named because she attended those meetings as well. This was supposed to be a publicly open process. We would attend those meetings, Mr. President, be given our 3 minutes, they would try to shut us down, try to tell us we don't know what we're talking about. It's like our opinion had no voice. And quite frankly, there was no one in administration anywhere that took our side and stood up for us. We were left alone to fight the battle. The 3 board members that you hear in that email, Medea Rivas, Miss Rosa Murray, and Shirley Mosby, they were on the board at that time. Sherelle. They were called racist. While at the same, they were targeted. while at the same time, and I've seen emails, there was a litany of emails that these board members were writing about them, isolating them, not giving them information. Racism is alive and well and has been on that Board of Education and in some corners of Norwalk. This is a serious situation that's come to a head. It's not just this email. So take a look at that email. The whole issue there, Mr. Chairman, I'll try to do this quickly, was because their original
No,
plan.
you take your time, so I can't even listen.
Great. Their original plan was that they were going to build a brand new school on where the old Ely School is right now.
Right.
Now, where is that, sir?
Right behind my house, right off of Ely
I know
Avenue.
where you live.
You know where, okay, right by Head Start. They were going to put a school there, and that was going to be, I think, a K through 5 school ultimately. And the existing Columbus school was going to be refurbished as brand new for the existing Columbus kids. It just would have been made a K-8, but that would have been their school. Old school made brand new. Kids in the neighborhood given a brand spanking new school.
Yeah, that was it.
Okay? That brand spanking new school was supposed to just be used temporarily as swing space for the kids in Columbus. When we raised the issue that, hold on, you're going to bring all these kids and put them in Ely. These are all the kids from Meadows Garden. That's going to be a predominantly black and brown school.
Yeah.
We raised the issue about racial balance and they tried to mute it. Mr. Barbas himself actually sitting there until Norwalk started and said, we don't have to worry about that. We're a majority minority district, so it doesn't matter. The spirit of the law wasn't even in this man's heart. And no one was saying anything until they got to realize you're wrong. You still have to pay attention to racial balance. So what did they do? As we raised the issue, Dr. Adamowski, we're sitting in a meeting, a bunch of us raising the issue, and Columbus parents, and on the spot, this man makes a decision. He says, you know what we're going to do? That brand new school over there, we're going to give it to you guys. And we're going to use this school, this old school, we'll refurbish it for the neighborhood kids. And we're not even asked the neighborhood what kind of school it ought to be. I've decided it's going to be an IB school. This is all while an open process is allegedly happening where we as black and brown parents and white parents, because white folks do it too, this affects everybody in the city. While we're all supposed to be a part of the conversation, we were fighting this battle alone. And they were shutting us out of the process. They made decisions. They went ahead and rammed that thing through. Well, interesting thing, and I guess the reason why he's really upset, because what happened, I went to one of those meetings, one of their board of ed meetings, and I said, hold on, gentlemen. I was trying to be as nice and respectful as I can. I'm glad they got the video. I said, I'm the state representative from that district. I want good education for all kids. All right? I said, what you want to do to the school? We got a problem over there with open space. You can't just do that. You're going to have to come by me at one point sooner or later anyway. I'm going to have to vote on this. They totally ignored what I said, went ahead and decided, no, we're going to go ahead and put a plan into the state. In fact, we asked them to wait a year, give us more time to talk, allow us to be participants. So if Mr. Barbers is talking about we don't participate, we're begging to give us a chance to participate and have our voices be heard. They rammed it through. Well, guess what? I am the state representative and it did come before me as I'm sitting on a bonding committee. They went ahead and wanted to get it done, but guess what? The application didn't even say anything. This is how corrupt these people are. They didn't even say anything about the land swap in the application. It wasn't even in there. Just want to get it done. Well, why? Why do I think they're doing that, Mr. President? Well, guess what? We're going to give the black and brown kids the old school. And quite frankly, I wonder whether they might even ever do that. One of the issues we raise is, well, what are you going to do with all these kids you got at Jefferson racial balance? Well, we're going to bring some of them down here too. So ultimately, I'm looking at a plan that's going to put primarily black and brown kids in large numbers in a school. And that's what Mr. Barber's upset that we're objecting to. We're objecting to the fact that, guess what? There won't be the open issue anymore about whether kids of color are going to Rowayton School where his community is. Won't be the issue of how many kids of color are going to Cranberry School where Mr. Meeks and them kids are.
That's right.
This is a serious issue that has, I don't know much further, I hope I've given you a little bit of a flavor of it, but even to this day, Mr. Barber's having a fit because Travis Sims and them said, listen, why would we want you to take our park away? You're telling us you're going to give us a grand big school but why would we let you take our open space park away and swap it to something, how many miles away is that on Richards Avenue? On the other side of town.
Right.
And you're gonna tell us you should be happy because we're gonna give you a brand new school. But by the way, it's not your school, that's gonna be the magnet school for the other kids from around the rest of the town.
Yes.
And we're supposed to be happy about this. You know, we're scum as leaders because we stand up to say this is wrong. We're scum as leaders because we say where's the administration and other folks speaking up. There are other voices. So, Mr. Chairman, maybe later I have some more comments. I did have a whole lot more to say.
No, we'll be back.
Very, very good. But understand this: it isn't isolated to just Mr. Barbas. The reality is you had a Board of Education that had 5 members while these other Black and Latino leaders there. By the way, McDaddy was the only Latino there.
Yes.
So what are they talking about? When she was there trying to raise her voice, the way they disrespected this woman at every meeting, was horrible. They have no respect for people of color. And there's enough on record, on videotape that you can watch for yourself. Thank you. But you know what? But what he said about Dr. Moore, Dr. Allen, these are building principals who are connected to the community. Parents in this school said these are the administrators that were making certain that kids that couldn't make it anywhere else were excelling and making it in their schools. But I guess they're part of the scum because that's how they got treated. That's what happens in
Just
Norwalk.
for clarification, Dr. Moore was the principal of what school?
Dr. Lynn Moore was the principal of West Rocks Middle School.
West Rock?
West Rocks, R-O-C-K-S.
Okay, West Rock.
She was. She's now an assistant principal over at Norwalk High School. Dr. Marie Allen was the building principal for our alternative.
Hold on. Dr. Allen, you said?
Marie Allen.
I got it. Right.
She was the building principal for our alternative high school. The kids who need the most.
Was it Pathways Academy?
They changed it to Pathways Academy, replaced her and put in an assistant, and then a year later closed the facility down, took all those kids that need the most and sent them back to the comprehensive high school.
Is she assistant principal now?
She's now, yes, in another high school, at Brian McMahon High School. These are both ladies with PhDs, with proven track records of success with kids, not even just kids of color, all kids. Where they didn't have success is with an administration that had a totally different plan. Thank you.
Can I just add something just to that?
Hold tight, sis. Hold tight 1 second.
Okay.
Was there someone else that wanted to speak? If not, then you have the floor. Please
Okay,
stand.
I
sis.
just wanted to add to what you said. There is a school because I brought this up. There is a school in Stanford. There's a charter school in Stanford. We were supposed to actually have another charter school here.
In Stanford?
No, well, in Norwalk, because I was actually on that board that went up. We were supposed to have a charter school here. It's, there's a charter school in Stanford that is majority Black and brown children, all brown children, however you want to look at it. Their scores are ridiculously high. But what they're doing in English and math is ridiculous. And I keep asking, why don't we bring them to the table and see what they're doing with these kids? Because quite honestly,
We're not at the table.
one of the, because you'll try to make a school for us, but then there is, and when we're excelling in that school, you either ignore it, you act like it doesn't
Is
exist.
this connected to Barbas?
And what all I'm
So I wanna
saying
stay
is what he
focused.
just said. What I'm saying is this: I brought it up to the attention of Norwalk Acts or the school board of or even the individuals on the board of education. We have a school that is majority Black and brown that is excelling. If you're trying to do that, then if you're trying to do that with these schools, there is a program that is excelling in that manner. Why don't we bring them to the table? But because they're hearing that they're excelling, it's like I never said that. They're not, so I don't want to add, but if you are trying to make a Black and brown school, because to be, I might be,
Listen to our voice. We're not at the table.
but there is even a model in that, and it's working, and it's beating your schools, and you're acting like it doesn't exist.
Sis, I got you.
You know what I mean? Like, that's it.
I got it. Yes.
All right, now this is going back relating to Barbas. As you stated before that this email came out in June. This came out, for board members to get on board, you have to be nominated by your DTC, your district, your town committee people to get on the slate. I know that already because I had to go through as an incumbent. They decided they didn't want me there, so they played around games or whatever to keep me off the slate, but I found another way. But anyway, going back to Barbas. So with this email coming out at that time, instead of us going through this process of trying to get him off the board, they should have did the same thing they did to me when I didn't even do it. None of this stuff, emails or whatever, none of the stuff out there that I put out there. They should have sat there and said, no, we're not going to support him, to put him on the slate and find someone else to run in that spot. But what they did was that they ran him unopposed.
Yes.
So he had no one to challenge him. And knowing his behavior for all these years and with us, and that's what is getting to us because, and like I said, it
Well, why
stinks
couldn't
at the
anybody
head.
oppose him?
Because the deal.
Excuse me one second.
Okay.
Excuse me, ma'am. I'm asking her, why couldn't
Because,
anyone oppose him?
because of the politics, the backroom
But
deals.
someone
that's
could have
fine.
opposed him.
No, because if you're not, if the Republican side don't put someone on the slate to run against him, then he's not going, he's unopposed.
Right.
You could also run as an independent also.
But see, that doesn't work because I know, because I ran on a working party field. I got a lot of votes, but still, the two major parties here is the Democrat and the Republican, and that's it. And so.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
So
okay,
what
good.
happened? What happened with that? A Republican told me that the Republicans made a deal with the
Yes.
Barbas,
Mhm, it
and
was a
that's
deal.
why they didn't run.
Got it.
It was a deal for
Sir,
the chair.
please stand. And what's your name? Y'all want to make you stand, man.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
No,
That's
just
my
to,
man, man.
just to clarify the record about Ward E. The Ward E Democratic Committee is the only one that can make the endorsement in that area. So they failed to make the endorsement. They said, and the Republicans said, we're not going to run anybody against you.
Gotcha.
So that's where it starts.
They
It's
cut the
politics
deal.
all the way
I get
down.
The deal.
I'm clear.
That's what
Jay-
speaks from the head.
In the back. Please stand, sir.
Hi, my name is Jalen Sheep, just a local guy in Norwalk. Been around a little bit, and like everybody's been saying, it's nothing new. It's been happening. It's actually the reason why they aren't on the board and why we had an all-white board of education.
It's all white now?
It was. Well, it is right now.
Yes.
And for a couple more weeks.
Right.
But they just elected a few people of color, 2 people of color. But it was all white.
Hold on, wait, I'm not clear. You're saying it's all white, yes or no?
Yes, right now.
Right
it
now,
is.
currently it
Yeah.
is.
You just had an
Excuse me,
election.
y'all confusing me.
The
I just need to hear
on
him.
Tuesday, we elected 2 people of color onto the Board of Education.
So it's not all white now?
Yes, it is.
No, right now,
You said,
They-
excuse me, excuse
They
me.
didn't get sworn in.
Someone just said there's 2 people of color on the board.
No, they
We're not elected.
were just elected, they were just sworn in, they're not official.
But they will be on.
They will be.
Yes.
Right, so there'll be 2 people of color on the board. Okay, so I don't wanna go back and say it's an all-white board if that's not true. So there will be 2 individuals of color.
One Hispanic and 2 blacks. Godfrey, Sherelle, and
Oh, yeah,
Carpio.
three.
Three.
All right, so there will be people of color.
So now we have people of color on the board. But this is the same board like Mike Barbas and a few others. He's a Democrat. But I say 2 years ago, was it? Or was it 4 years ago? They elected a Republican as the chair when they had the lead. They had the alliance. Mr. Lyons was re-elected as the chair when we had the majority as Democrats on the board. So majority Democrat board elected a Republican as a chair. And Mr. Barbas was part of that. They had cliques. It was certain people who.
But at the end of the day, that's politics.
That's policy.
That's not racist.
No, but that's just, I'm not saying
So
racist.
I want you to bring me home on what,
But the
about
point is,
racism.
my point is, that's why they're following Republican policy. There was people on the board that was electing Republican as the chair. And racist policies that were just continuing to happen.
What racist policies?
Fake Democrat.
Yes.
Changing the rules with the new school, that whole policy, that was all part of that regime. And then the only reason I brought that up was that's why he was unopposed, because he's pretty much a Republican. So the Republicans won't put anybody up against him because he's working with them. So
I'm clear. Yes, sir. Anybody else?
I have one quick comment.
Please stand. And your name.
I don't think I can. Pat Hirschman.
Why can't you stand?
Because I was shaking.
You can stand. Everybody else gotta stand. There's equality in here.
Okay. So we live in Village Creek, which is a planned interracial community since 1950, right? He grew up there, his parents started it. He raised his kids there, I raised my kids there. None of our children would put up with this. I'm too nervous to say this.
Take your time.
No, I'm just gonna say the one thing. Bottom line here, and you keep going back to Mike Barbas, he does not belong there. He does not represent me. He does not represent my children. He doesn't represent anybody that I know, and he should not be allowed to walk back into that room as any part of that organization. On the front page of the paper today, it said that he refuses to resign. Please make sure that he does not step foot in that room again. He does not deserve to be in that room. And there are ways to make sure he doesn't. And if politics got him there, then politics can get him out.
Anybody else?
I would like to talk.
Please stand. What's your name?
Christine Biseglia, and I'm shaking too.
There's nothing to be nervous.
No, but you know, I appreciate you being down here, Scott, and I appreciate you getting back to Mike Barbas because I've read about all these things. I worked in the schools in 1991. I'm not going to go to the past. I worked at Brian McMahon. I can repeat something, and I may be at the end of this, but to focus on this situation, we now have the situation right here. This is out there finally, and it needs to be addressed with him because he is unstable, obviously. Something is seriously wrong. So you only need one person with mental illness or going rogue or has an addiction problem who's in a position of power to turn things and then bring up the passion in here. And then people who are passionate are looked upon as agitators or hostile or racist themselves. So I appreciate you as an outsider being able to kind of temper, not that we need to be tempered, but to focus on this issue and start there. Somebody said the head of the fish. That's it. Focus on the head of the fish right now to fix the problems that have existed in this city for decades. And I, as an educator, have witnessed it myself. And I concur with the people who've spoken here. Every single thing that has been said, I have seen myself as an educator in here, in this city.
You did a wonderful job. See someone in the back of the room. Please stand and state your name.
Hi, my name is Shatifa Fleming. I am a proud mother of 6 children that attend all public schools.
Wow.
From Head
That's
Start
old
all the way
school,
up
6
to
children.
My issue with this whole situation is it's been quiet for too long. It's been accepted for too long. And there's no reason why this should be a normalcy. There's no reason why someone should feel comfortable enough to be able to open their mouth or even type such things that winds up falling into the hands of our children. Children are learned behavior. They see learned behavior. So if this person is doing this, teachers or whoever else may follow suit, the children are also learning this. So the swastika, sorry, I can't get that word out right, that you saw inside Brian McMahon High School is learned behavior. They're seeing that it's okay. Someone's telling them that it's fine. So they feel that they can bully or they feel that they can do these things because people in power, people in position are doing the same exact thing. So they feel, okay, well, if they can get away with doing it, why can't I? So why would you expect different behavior from our children if the adults that's supposed to be showing them the way to go are leading them astray?
Okay. Swastika. Swastika.
Swastika.
Close. You're almost there. A little bit more practice. You learn something today. We're all learning, sis. We're all learning. Yes, ma'am. Your name? Take your time.
My name is.
You don't know your name?
I know my name. I still know my name. And I say it proudly, Diane Loricella. And I have been subjected to lots of bullying, marginalization, and becoming an other. I'm a trouble finder, not a troublemaker. And I've worked in this part of the city for a long time, not always appreciated, but I will continue doing it to try to save folks with their environmental health. I encountered Mr. Barbas at a Ponus Ridge meeting just to ask, can we meet about saving money for the taxpayers and giving the kids a more healthful schools related to solar panels. And he was in a bad mood and started yelling at me in front of other parents to try to continue the marginalization. Now,
He's a bully, huh?
He's a bully. Now, the thing is, the reason I'm saying this, and this was, I'm still going to deal with him, but I had some family matters I was dealing with. Mother died. I had to deal with that first, but I'm not done with him. And the thing is, I want to encourage this group and the NAACP, where I've been a member, to use every legal mechanism to expunge him like a cancer from the system. But you have to also look at the system, because there are people still on the Board of Ed, even rumored to be running for chair, who allowed the behaviors to continue for a long time. And so I think the entire board and the staff need to have sensitivity training towards people of color, towards women, towards people who speak up and speak out. And we should not let this go, because it's just gone too far. And we also have to take a look at why my Democrats allowed this to continue. One more thing to say, and that is, I approached Mr. Camacho, who I regret when I was on the DTC, and I've apologized to some people. I thought he was organized, and since then I found that he seems to like the divisiveness. I've asked him over years, but on this, I approached him before they were getting ready to nominate people. I said, Ed, we have to do something about Barbas. Let's find people in E to run against him. Why won't the DTC try? He doesn't represent what we're supposed to be about as a people, as Democrats. And he said to me, well, if we didn't support him, he would become a Republican. Good. Now, the thing is, I said, so what? He's already acting more like a Republican. We need someone better. And there have been other issues. Unfortunately, in District B, with Eric Anderson and others who don't show up. We've had no I now live in District B, and I don't know why. And lastly, I just want to say, we have to talk to our state reps and senator. The laws we were told that don't allow us to remove people on the Board of Ed as voters need to be changed at the state level. That's not right.
Hold tight, sir. Counselor.
Yes.
Former branch president of the Norwalk NAACP.
Darnell Crosland, I live in Norwalk as well. I was trying to figure out why I became a Republican, but I just found out, as she just said, we don't support him, we become a Republican. So maybe that's why I became a Republican. So the idea here is that I get real agitated in this room because I go out and work with the kids. I've been working with the kids for a long time. And the whole idea is that you want to be an example of what the children should grow up to be. I've been in with Travis, with his daughters, to many cheerleading competitions. I've been all over to Benjamin Franklin, to the basketball game. And I say to myself, if we're going to grow these kids up to not be included, then what are we doing? And we were talking about the head of the fish before the mayor walked in here. We were talking about issues that other people pointed out, the senior homes that weren't fulfilled. And so Barbas is just a small issue. We definitely, it's just a bigger issue than this. And I'm tired of walking around here thinking that we're all one big family when it's a fake thing. I sit down and talk to Bruce Morris about his issues. I've talked to the mayor when he first became mayor. And I even put this out, I think Nancy published it, the mayor said he never came to my house. The mayor came to my apartment and we sat and talked. Any issues that he had with Dr. Morrison, I talked to him as a friend. Galen Wells is sitting back there. I've been practicing for 15 years, won many cases, done a lot of things. And you talk about when you become an agitator, how they go after you. My mother's sitting in the Bronx right now, scared to death because I've been charged with something that ain't close to anything that I would ever do. And as it's falling apart, I'm telling her to just relax. But that's what happens. And as it's printed in the paper last week with Mandela and Martin Luther King, and these are people, this is not a game, this happens. So I'm sitting here looking around at these fakes, and I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, what are we talking about our kids when in this same city, Darius is one of the kids that's growing up. I've seen him since he was a kid, 9 years old, growing up. And then if you're gonna grow up and get hugged and kissed by the Democrats, and then there's gonna be no space for him. You know, I sat there and I look at Galen Wells telling her face, I don't know what this means. I sat there after coming from the Democratic Convention, and I came down the next day to the probate convention. I sat there and I broke down my history and talked about all the cases I had, whatever. And then I got up and asked for the nomination. I ran against a powerhouse, Tony the Panthless. He got 12,000 votes to my 10,000 votes. He raised 60 grand, I raised 20 grand my first time running. So I told the Democrats, I said, if there's nothing else.
Bring it to Barbas, though.
Yeah, I'm going to bring it. The whole idea with Barbas is that Barbas is a fly on the wall.
But that's what I'm here for.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I want you to see that the cancer that grows in Barbas is a cancer that grows from the head of the fish on down, right? So if the mayor in the office and anybody else is not saying we need to include people, when Travis gets attacked 100% and I get attacked, then Barbas is empowered. So when I stand on the floor and say, you know, this is who I am, this is what I've done to the Democrats, you know, I'm asking for your nomination, and then Galen Wells stands and says, I'm going to nominate Doug Stern because he's just a nice guy. No other explanation. No record, no track record, no history. Just he's a nice guy. I say to myself, what does that make me? You know? So thank you, Diane, for telling me why I became a Republican. It was Ed's plan. You know, don't support him, run him out. And so that's what's happening here. So when you talk about Barbas, think about the entire city that we're in. And the plans that are covert.
So it's a reflection of what the city is.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, look to the mayor's office. I mean, everybody was talking about the mayor before he came here, and I'm behind closed doors. But you know, this is if the mayor has anything to do with it, talk to him in his face. I don't have a problem with that. I could face prosecution, persecution. You're not going to shut me up. You know, I know what I do, and you've been to my trials in Hartford. You sat there and watched me get the lady who signed my warrant. You were at that trial. When I cleaned her clock. And this warrant sits inside the state attorney's office for months until she gets transferred into Rocky Hill. And then she says, oh, I'll sign it. And now it's coming out that she should not have signed it because she was not neutrally detached from me. But you know, this is what's happening here in the city of Norwalk. I don't see a lot of black inclusion at all. And I can only speak for myself. I put myself in a position to say, you know what, I could be a probate judge. Let me stand up and see if I can get a nomination. No, because I'm not a nice guy, I guess, you know? And so I'm here to tell you in your face.
I have a couple questions for you, Council. In your observation pertaining to City Hall, pertaining to the Board of Education, the diversity and inclusion of contracts, of people doing business with the city of Norwalk. I noticed that there's a huge mall that was built in the south end of Norwalk. I would just like to hear your perspective of the inclusion of the community that the NAACP represents in the city of Norwalk.
Well, that's a good question because years ago we went to a bunch of conferences with the NAACP and we talked about Norwalk Hospital. And since then, Norwalk Hospital has changed hands so many times and merged in so many different ways that we can't even keep track of it. But the idea was that we're going to have black vendors and black cooperation with Norwalk Hospital for
and
one.
blacks in leadership positions.
Exactly. And so Yolanda might be still here. Maybe she left. Oh, so Yolanda, I was with Yolanda. She was calling, and we called every single department you could possibly get in Norwalk Hospital. We've been totally rude, dismissive, no one calls you back, etc. So when I talk about the Norwalk, then the mayor's office and anybody in that position of power could step with us and join hands with us and at least maybe get a call back. I can't tell you if I was the mayor of this town that I couldn't call somebody at Norwalk Hospital and get a meeting. But it seems like there's just a lot of, I think Lisa said it best. She was running for mayor last week, Lisa Britton. There's friends, and if you're friends, you're here. If you're not friends, you're over there. So there's a lot of that friend stuff thing. Ed Camacho, the chairman of the Democratic Party, even before I left the party, he will speak to who he wants to speak to, doesn't speak to you, doesn't want to speak to. He went crazy on Brenda and a bunch of us inside City Hall one day, and spit was coming out of his mouth because that racial issue was raised. And that's the type of stuff that's so juvenile.
The diversity and inclusion of City Hall and the Board of Education.
It's not there. It's not there. There's no meetings to talk about it. There's nothing. It's just not there. And I know people talk about this behind closed doors, and I'll talk about it in open. We have a summer youth program, and the mayor's here, and you can ask the mayor, did he put his son in charge of that program or hire his son for that program? And those are things that people keep talking about, but no one raised those issues. And I think as the NAACP head, we need to talk about those issues. There's other people who could be more included in these processes or not, and that's just scraping the surface. And when you talk about, you mentioned it earlier today, the Democrats, in addition to the NAACP, the Democrats who get our vote all the time, year after year, nationally and locally. When you look around those rooms in the Democrats, there's qualified black doctors, lawyers, etc. in those rooms. And they just say, oh, we got you, so we don't have to cater to you. And you go in the Republican room, there's not the same, right? And so everybody wants to talk about racism over there, that they're racist, that those people are racist. Well, there's so many racists right here in the Democratic Party. Absolutely. And they think they got us, just take us for granted. So the mayor should ask the mayor, do they have an inclusion effort in place? And we might talk about the one black guy who was hired last week, I guess right before elections. And I don't even know who he is. He hasn't come to has he come to our meeting, Brenda?
No, he just started, but he's been invited.
Okay.
I think he's coming in December.
Okay. Well, that was one guy, but we could do much better. And I think I could tell you, a lot of times you could look outside and say about them, but I'm not saying I'm special. I'm just saying I put in the work, I've done the work, and I haven't been included. And the people who were included, like Ms. Mosby here, they all got excluded. So as you're included for a while, and you're included until you're excluded, or just not included at all.
Yeah. So I'm going to take you, Mr. Burgess, and I'm going to get next. And then I'm going to let two more speak. If there's anybody else, please raise your hand now. Okay, and then we'll close out after you.
I agree with everybody saying tonight, but I think I want to give one suggestion for the future. Kimmel want to run for the Board of Education chairman. We have all Democrats slate there. I urge those Democrats.
I want to stay focused on the issue.
Right.
But this
is the correct issue. Don't vote Kimmel in as the chairman of the Board of Education. Vote somebody in that's new and coming. So we'll kind of change a lot of those things that we are talking about now. It starts at the head, so a new person, because Kimmel was a part of the past problem.
He's on all those emails.
I'm clear. So that's connected then.
Right.
That's the connectivity. I got you. Man, please stand.
He's been a snake for so long. He just writes them.
We have a pretty good crowd of African Americans here out here now, but there are more. There are a lot more that we need to draw out. And that's the problem here in Norwalk. We're still not reaching the amount that we need to get to turn things around.
Well, let me just say something.
So maybe you can.
And this is in the spirit of Harriet Tubman. Her movie's up now. The civil rights movement has not always been all black.
No.
Let me explain, because you brought up the issue, and I want to make sure that I respond properly. There's always been white people of good faith and good intention and wanting America to be the way it's supposed to be that have been helpful to the advancement of our people. When Harriet Tubman had to get from the South to Canada, there were no blacks with homes that they could hide people into these particular homes. So there had to be white people of good faith to help with the efforts of us striving to become free. So we should never just get caught up in a color thing. We should get caught up on people based on their character. And that's what Dr. King really meant. We need to judge people based on their character and not by the color of their skin. And there's black people that'll fool you. Right? And so the point that I'm saying is that as we put this movement together to make changes in Norwalk, and I'm going to be spending a lot more time in here in Norwalk to help with the Norwalk NAACP and support the president here and the executive committee, because I think this is a reflection of what's not only going on here in Norwalk, but it's going on all across this country. And we have to make a stand, and we have to fight. But let's be clear that it's not gonna just be individuals from the black community. It's gonna have to be people from all communities of good character and good faith. So let's not get caught up in that game.
And I'm not getting caught up in that game.
Right.
But I am concerned because of the African American community in Norwalk.
We gotta wake them up.
Diminished.
We gotta wake them
And
up.
it's not the few that are left here. So the few that are
Oh, I
left
got you.
here.
The
and this-
regentrification
yes,
is going on.
Yes, we
Yes,
have
ma'am.
been diminished down. Our numbers are down.
Yes,
So the
ma'am.
few that are left here, they're not even aware of what's going on.
So we gotta do better in that.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
That's what I'm bringing out.
I'm clear.
I'm quite aware of the history.
I know you are.
No, don't get it mixed up. That young man over there, yes, he should have gotten the probate judge, and I backed you, okay?
Thank you.
Yes, no, don't get it
And
mixed up. No.
meaning history too. At one time, we were all Republicans.
And
Right.
that's right.
And then we all went
Yes.
Democrat.
Yeah,
But it should be clear that we don't have to stay Democrats.
Thank you.
We can go back and have other alternatives.
And I have split my votes, and I've been splitting it.
Be an
And I
educated
take one
voter.
person at
Don't
a
get
time.
caught up in labels.
So I can,
Ain't too
I
much
stand up
difference
here.
between Coke and Pepsi.
Yes. I've been doing it.
Yes, ma'am.
I take a person as they are.
Yes,
Whether
ma'am.
you're a Democrat or Republican, because this black woman here, I'm not being an all Democrat no more.
That's right.
I'm taking it from who you are.
Don't judge you who you are. That's right.
The walkable survey that was sent out from the EOB, just for your inclusion, because I have a friend on the EOB right now who sent it. They said the walkable, they had over 500 surveys done and not one came out of South Norwalk. I live in South Norwalk, I never saw that survey.
What is a walkable survey?
That's literally what I just typed it, took it from the
Please stand,
text.
'cause I
because
can't
they
hear you,
were-
sis.
I'm sorry, I just took it from the text that they sent me. And we had a.
What is a walkable survey?
I'm just letting you know what it was. I never heard of the survey. I just have the friend on the Board of Education who had a meeting about the walkable survey that all of Norwalk did, and not one came out of South Norwalk. What I'm saying is South Norwalk didn't hear about it, so talking about inclusion, that's all I'm saying.
Gotcha. All right, sir. Sir, you will be the last to speak.
Thank you, because
Take your time.
Your closing comments and those that you gave to Mark were pretty much where I was going. Because you opened this meeting by talking about the fact that we need to determine, ultimately, what are our demands?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So, I appreciate so much the comment that you just gave, because before you gave it to Michelle, which I was looking and saying the same thing. I said, I appreciate all the folks on the other side, but I appreciate all the white folks that are here tonight.
Oh, yeah.
I appreciate you. And not tonight, because you've not just been here tonight, but I look around the room, many of you have been here all the time. That shows that, guess what, there is greatness still in Norwalk. There's possibility and potential for good things, because this city was once known for its diversity and its appreciation for it. But Mr. President, the challenge we have is this. The initial call or request would be to have Mr. Barbas resign.
Yes.
I think everyone's heard enough here to know there's no way in the world this man's going to resign on his own. The only way that would happen in the city of Norwalk is if a room full of Norwalkers that look like this, no, we need a whole bunch more Latinos. If everyone in Norwalk, from every corner of Norwalk, raise enough issues, they raise it with their party leaders, they raise it with the mayor, they raise it, say, listen, he needs to go. He feels enough pressure that everyone says, forget your 2,000 some odd votes. You got that because you ran unopposed. Right. But we, the people of Norwalk, do not tolerate you. It's unacceptable. We want you to go. So that's the only way that's going to happen. I don't have great hope in that. I wish I could. That would be fantastic if the mayor, who has the bully pulpit for the city, would get up and make it, would say, listen, Norwalkers, I can't make it go on my own. But guess what? But I don't stand for this. This isn't the Norwalk that we believe in. That would be a great role for your new term starting out. Say, I'm going to lead the way back to a Norwalk that we used to know. Now, aside from that, if that doesn't happen, because you need leadership, you need the mayor, you need faith community, from all different faith communities to say it. Because unfortunately, Mr. Barbas has already proven he has disdain for the NAACP. Remember, he's the one that sent the letter to all the Board of Ed members that they heeded, telling them not to come to the banquet. Freedom Fund banquet. So he doesn't have any respect. If you stood there toe to toe with him, he'd look at you like, he might call you the N-word. I know he might be thinking that. I hate to say that, but he might be thinking that. He say, who you to get in his face? Seriously, we're dealing with that kind of mentality. It is a similar mentality we see happening nationally, where people can say and do whatever they want to, knowing there aren't any consequences. So it's going to take real leaders to stand up, and all of us as leaders. So aside from that,
brother, I can't hear you. Let him get it together.
So there was something very positive. I get even to the faith leaders did. I think Yolanda was part of that. At Grace Baptist about a week or so ago, they had all the Board of Ed members and Common Council members come, and they did a little debate or whatever. But it was a very interesting number of questions that were asked about what would you do as a Common Council person or a board member to change the perceptions of racism in all public schools. Interesting, Mr. Barbas kind of, I think his answer kind of said, oh, we're doing stuff.
Right. Yeah.
You know, Mr. Meek actually acknowledged, so yeah, that's an important thing, needs to go in the budget, even though they've cut everything in the budget that would ever address these issues. So,
you said we're doing stuff. What does that mean?
We don't know.
Around racial sensitivity and anti-bias training, things like that. The things that in corporate America are important. The things that, quite frankly, when we had a superintendent by the name of Ralph Sloan back in the 70s or whatever, these programs were important. It's what made Norwalk what it became. We have one of the best school districts anywhere being deliberate about what we do to appreciate racial differences. It's only in the last 10 years or so they started cutting all that stuff out. So what I say to you is in closing, because the ask, we can do the ask, but I know what Mr. Barbas is going to be. So unless the ask becomes universal in the city, but what the ask is in the demand that people do have control over, because we can't control his mouth. We can't control him when he decides to write emails that people look at for months and don't say anything about. I'm really upset with that, with the leaders, the elected leaders, that all these things. But what we can do, demand and ask that this Norwalk Public Schools return dollars to their budget for deliberate programs that bring the anti-bias training, that bring the sensitivity training that we need in this city. That's what needs to be done. And it should not stop just in the schools. It needs to happen within city employees everywhere, so that we return back to a community that has some kind of civility, some kind of sensitivity, because you then asked a very important question of my friend and brother right here. For the longest time, and you know this, Mr. President, because you worked with me when I was in the legislature, we as black people, we focused on education issues because we knew that that was the great equalizer. We focused on criminal justice reforms because we knew there was such an injustice that was just taking us out of the game. But then we began to focus on the one area where we've been left out that really empowers us, which was economic equity. You asked the question. And I think it's a shame that from my observation, I'd like to know the real numbers. How can you talk about all this great development in the city of Norwalk? 10% of that was supposed to go to people of color. With an emphasis on businesses in zip code 06854. I don't know if any of them were, but it would sure be good to know. Because I don't want to see 2 more years of the same old, same old. This is an opportunity that the demand ought to be that, no, I don't want to just see that you've got it in your LDA and you say you're going to do these things, but what are we going to do to make certain that people of color, people that have been historically disenfranchised in the city of Norwalk, become full partners and full partakers of America the Beautiful. Thank you so much.
I know what's your name, sir?
I'm Harry Rilling, current mayor of the city of Norwalk.
There's one equality in the room.
Yeah. And you know, I know Mr. Morris is supposed to be the last speaker, but I know there's a burning issue here. And the issue is why that email did not surface until just before the election. I can't answer why it surfaced or who sent it, but I can tell you this. During the time that that email came out, I was in the process of trying to get Brenda and Barbas to sit down, make peace, broker peace, and try to come together in a different relationship of respect and trust, honesty, and openness. And what happened was, we had a big discussion about this email, and it was going to totally interrupt the opportunity to bring Brenda and Mike Barbas back to the table. Now, it was just quoted in the paper the other day, and I stand by this. I was trying to get somebody in District E to primary Mike Barbas for the Board of Ed in District E this time around. We could not find anybody that was willing to challenge him because he has a District E stronghold. And in Rowayton, he is going to get a lot of votes. There's nothing we can do about it. Do I think Mike Barbas belongs on the Board of Education? No. Absolutely not. He has proven over and over and over again that he does not have the temperament or the sensitivity to be on the board. And if he will not resign on his own, believe it or not, in the state of Connecticut, there's very little that we can do to remove him. And we know that. And that needs to be changed, because when you have somebody that is toxic and makes these kinds of comments, and as somebody mentioned, is in a position of power where our young people are watching this happen, that is something that needs to change drastically. So, you know, you make a decision, you do the best you can with the information you have. At the time, we're saying, okay, if this comes out right now, there's no way that we're going to be able to broker that peace. And so, was the decision right or wrong? We can always second guess. Hindsight is 20/20 all the time. We made the decision the best we could for the good of the city in trying to broker peace between Brenda and Barbas. Well, at one point, Barbas said, no way I'm going to sit down and talk. Brenda has always been willing to sit down and talk and try to get this resolved. Unfortunately, it didn't work. I was in the room when we had that whole thing, the debacle, and tried to get everybody calmed down. You cannot sit in a room and talk intelligently if you have different beliefs than somebody else and you refuse to sit and listen to other people talk. And that's unfortunately what happened. So was it the right decision to hold it? Was it the wrong decision? Like I said, hindsight is 20/20. If I had to do it over again, probably would have released it back then, knowing what was happening now. But you can't undo something that was done. But still, we made the decision with the best information that we had. And I think this is a healthy discussion that we're having here today. I think we all understand that certain people should be on the Board of Education, others should not. I think we've got some wonderful opportunities with the Board of Education now with the, well, 4 new people that we just elected. So I think we're in good shape, and I hope we can work together and make that happen. So again, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, Mr. President, for coming here.
I would like to say something in closing, and I know that we try to get everyone out of here at 9 o'clock, and I got to get back to New Haven. I want y'all to hear what I'm saying because this is very important. Mayor, I would like to say this to you. Shame on you, shame on you, shame on you. What you just said is totally unexcusable. It's totally out of line in reference to you received this particular information. You knew who you were dealing with. You knew he should have been challenged. You should have used your bully pulpit to make sure you removed him. And you did not put the effort in trying to get rid of that guy. You did not put the effort in. And you didn't embrace the appropriate people to make sure that that was done. You didn't reach out to the top people in the Democratic Party. You didn't move to the people that you know that could have got rid of that man. You harbored him and you let him get away with of racist behavior, and I'm quite sure there's a whole lot more that was done than this one email that we received. And I'm saying to you that we've never sat around and waited for mayors to help us, the NAACP. We've done sit-ins, we've done protests, we've done rallies, we've done marches, we've done direct action, we mobilized, organized, and disrupted and agitated. And that's what we have to do. We're going to call people from all over this country to come to Norwalk and get rid of that racist food that's the chairman of the Board of Education. You may be powerless, but we're not. You with me, God? You may be powerless, but we are not. We've always had our back up against the wall.
Because when we fight, we win.
Because when we fight the NAACP, we win. We win. So we will be back. But we plan to work, we're planning to roll up our sleeves, we're planning to find out who our friends are and who are not our friends. We're going to call everybody. If you're a U.S. Senator, we're calling on you. If you're a U.S. Congressman, we're calling on you. If you're a state rep, we're calling on you. If you're a state senator, and if you don't march with us and you don't rally with it, we're going to get rid of you too. That's how we plan to fight. That's how we plan to fight. So we'll be back. And you're going to see the NAACP in action, and you all are going to get out in the streets, and we're going to make this thing happen. Y'all understand? Yes. Y'all understand? Because when we fight, we win. Thank you so much. We'll close out in prayer, and once again, we will be back.